It's off there, it's off, look.
Right, okay. So what my project is about is called Class Purgatory, right? I'm from a working class council estate in Liverpool. And we had this big debate in uni not too long ago about what class are you. And everyone was going to me, you're working class, you're middle class, you're middle class, you're middle class. You know, now I own my own home and it's detached and all this bollocks. So I went on to kind of this website and it came up, I put all your details in, called I'm established middle class.
Oh right, yeah.
But that
was the BBC survey,
it was.
I remember it, I know.
Frightened me to death. Right. I thought, shit.
I had a woman in tears when we were making the Taste series.
Yeah.
I had a woman in tears. It didn't get in the film in the end, but she'd been on a similar journey. You know, her dad ran a bookies, and she was, you know, down the line working class, and then she'd gone to work in the city in the time when, you know, the barra boy mentality was very much, you know, you could make it with your own sort of personal instincts rather than education. And she'd done really well in the city, and she was in this fantastic house, and I said, "You're middle class now. You know, you're middle class now. You know." And she said, "No, I can't abandon my roots." And she burst into tears. And I said, "What's so wrong? You know, you've done really well. You've got nice kids, nice houses, a lovely place." But she sort of struggled with that tension.
This is exactly what it's about. It's about, like, when I go home, there's a lovely scene in Educating Rita. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Where she goes to the pub and they're all having a laugh and it's just not there no more. And like, that's for me is where I sit. I feel like I sit in this class purgatory where the middle class people I associate with, the majority of them I feel are wankers, and I just don't like their outlooks and their opinions on things. And I'm anchored by this sort of moral compass that's been installed in me from the working background roots, which tends to disagree with a lot of the things that they say. But yeah, I'm disconnected from my class system.
I think it's becoming a less common thing. I mean, if you go back to the Dennis Potter play, have you seen that stand-up Nigel Barton?
No.
Which is exactly about that whole journey. It's all about a boy from the Black Country who goes to Oxford and then goes back and, you know, can't kind of handle it. And he even, I think in the film, he even goes back and makes a documentary about the mining community where his father works and things. And that tension between, and I think it is tricky, you know, and the uses of literacy is a lot about that as well, you know, the Hoggart book. So I think there is a lot of tension there, and as the, you know, in a way it's our responsibility as the people who are socially mobile to kind of do something about it and sort of handle it somehow. I don't know how we're meant to do it though.
My project really is looking at the consequences of it and the difficulties that people have found within it.
I think we're in a lucky place. I've always thought, wow, well, I don't call it purgatory. I always think of it as sort of, it gives me an advice. When I was at art school, I went to an art school at a time when the majority of my year would have been working class people, you know, from all over the country, because education was free in those days. And so therefore, I always thought that middle class people were handicapped because they had all this impulse control.
Yeah.
You know, when I once went to a psychotherapy day where half of the group were deliberately chosen because they were working class background and half were chosen deliberately because they were from middle class background. And just to see the differences, just in things like their names. And then to think about how they interacted with people and how, you know, the middle class people were very much more on best behaviour, and the working class people, even if a lot of the people had been to uni and were quite educated, they still had that emotional core that from, you know, their own culture that was very open, and you know, and I think that, you know, negotiating. So I always think I had the best of both worlds in that I had low impulse control and a fairly good education, you know. Yeah. So I always thought, yeah, I'm creaming it here.
See, I find it quite difficult. Like, I don't know, because now that I'm analysing what my youth was and what I was inspired by, it was filmed like Educating Rita, it was Shirley Valentine, Letters to Brezhnev, it was all about escapism. Like, my nan had a fake constable up on the wall, and do you know what I mean? Everything was kind of programmed.
I think Brexit, I mean, I'm making this programme about Brexit. Most of the people, you know, a lot of the people, my friends, they weren't original Londoners. They've escaped, like you say, they've escaped to come to London, you know. So they're people who've moved away from what they saw as the claustrophobic
But don't
background.
you think that, what do you think then, because my angle on it is going to be more about empowering people that are there, as opposed to promoting them to escape.
I mean, yeah, I mean, but it's sort of saying, you know, if there's something that's going to satisfy them with that, you know, that's the thing.
But I think, well, why I've come to that conclusion is I think because people are getting constantly, especially working class, demonised for being working class constantly.
Yeah.
And it's something like, you know, Jeremy Kyle, all that, it's like, it's putting people
It's a
down.
particular spin on the work, because it's weird what happened, isn't it, is that, you know, if you go back, you know, maybe to when I was a child, you know, the majority of people would have defined themselves as working class, and it was sort of a big group, but it was all different sorts of people, and some of them were a bit dodgy, and some of them, and I think what's happened in the media is that, you know, particularly the right-wing media, is that they love the idea of a sort of idle, you know, sponge at people. But, you know, most people who would describe themselves as working class, you know, like when I went to Skelmersdale and I was filming on the estate there, we were getting shouted at by the people because, you know, the media now has demonised them so much that as a member of the media, I was getting shouted at. They're going, Benefit Street, fuck off! To me. You know.
Have you seen like Channel 5?
Yeah.
That's all that channel runs on, is exploiting people.
But
so,
because most of the people in the estate are just going about normal lives.
I'll drag you off.
Have
right,
you? Oh, okay. Well,
Thank you.
By all means, contact me.